Hey everyone, AJ Roberts here, and today I have a super special interview for you with my good friend Matt Holmes. Actually, me and Matt started working together recently, and we got talking about his story. And to be honest, I was fascinated by it, and so I told Matt we got to do an interview or something. We got to set something up, and we got to get your story, your message out to the world because, man, you meet a lot of people as you go through, and many as you know, I travel all around the world teaching the CrossFit powerlifting seminar as well as attending and going to other seminars that I host with in the marketing industry and different things like that. And it's very rare that you meet people that have such fascinating stories. And so I said to Matt, we got to get you on and we got to do something. And, I don't have a web show or nothing like that, but I wanted to do this interview because to me, this is good stuff and everyone can grow and learn from this. And hopefully you get something out of it. So Matt, thanks for agreeing to do this with me.
Hey, thanks for kind of the idea and everything, AJ. It's kind of funny that we're doing this today, and the topics and everything. Kind of we're going to talk about with my story that you were saying that I had a few people message me today that were like, I'd love to hear more of your story with the military and the past drugs and where you're at now. And I'm like, oh, just wait. We're actually doing an interview today.
Yeah, it's strange how things come together, and it's what's fascinating to me is that you're a very successful guy, and I've known you. I mean, we met. I think we met in New Jersey was the first time we met at a fitness seminar, one of the fitness consulting group seminars, and I believe you just came from Zach Evanish's underground strength coach certification, and that was like the beginning of the fitness journey that I know, but. I know it started way before then, having talked to you recently. So why don't we just back up kind of to that and kind of talk about how you got into fitness and why you got into fitness, because that to me is quite a story in itself.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, because like saying, it's been a roller coaster journey, I guess you could say, from that. The first time I really got into it, I was maybe 14, if not 15 at the time. It was right before I started driving. And, I'd seen muscle mags and all that stuff going to the store. And, I picked one up. I've always been super tall, taller than everybody else, like the real lanky, skinny, tall guy. And I saw that and I'm like, this is awesome. I got picked on, made fun of. Even though I was tall, I was really shy and I guess intimidated as a kid. Like when I was really young, my parents, I didn't want to order my food. Like I was too shy. Like I would whisper to my mom and they would do it until they started to finally make me do it as I got older. So seeing that, I was like, this is great. I could be, look at these guys, they're fucking huge. I want to be like that. So it got me into the gym, and, like a lot of people that you hear, they got into it to kind of get away from being bullied, to kind of build themselves up and feel more confident. So in a way, that's kind of where I started with all of that. I remember, I think it was my birthday that year, the next Christmas, my dad bought me a starter weight set. It was really good too. Not like the sand-filled type, plates. Like actually they were real 45-pound plates. I think it was, maybe 300 pounds. It was a bench. It had a leg extension on it. And I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, but I just started training. And then I would go to a Gold's Gym in town. And there was this giant guy. It was huge. It was like 6'7", like almost 300 pounds, giant guy. He was really nice. He looked intimidating, but, he saw I was trying. He started to kind of give me some advice. I would spend like 4 hours a day there and not really knowing what I was doing, but I just enjoyed it. It kind of got me away. And with that being said, it got me to where it was something to get away from being kind of to build my confidence up that I never really had when I was younger. And then also, as you and I have talked about, you found out some more of the personal family issues I had at home. It was almost like my time away from that. And that's kind of how that journey started. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long, maybe until, when I was 16 and then a little after, and then it kind of died down from there because, again, with increasing family issues that I had at home, instead of taking something positive like training to get away from it, I started to get into drugs, which is kind of where that journey started. And progressed over the years as it went. So I stopped going to the gym and kind of turned into the, pothead stoner skater guy, and then eventually started doing more heavier drugs from that. And then that kind of kept going until, man, I'd say, when did I finally, after I moved, I grew up in Utah, and then when I moved from Utah to Los Angeles, say maybe about a year after that. So when I was about 18, 19, I finally started there was a gym by my mom's house, and I finally I'd missed going to the gym. And I'd say that was when I started to get back into it. And, from there, it just it kept going. It was some time, I was heavily into drinking and drugs and partying to make up for a lot of family problems that I had, which is, again, why I moved from Utah to Los Angeles. So that was a big road, as I've talked to you and other people that I've started to become more open with it. That was a very tough thing, and a mix of other things. But the main thing, I think, was me missing the gym and knowing that was more of a positive addiction. I say now I've changed from one addiction to another, but I'd choose an addiction on training any day because I love it and it's a passion, and now it's turned into, a career for me. But it didn't happen overnight. Definitely was something that came, but I owe a lot to, everybody that I've kind of looked up to that's taken me under their wing and has really helped me and brought me in, which, as and I'll plug it within here is, Josh Carter. When he used to own his old gym, the North Hollywood gym, that was where I started to get back into it. And he, I owe a lot to him because he gave me a position just working at the front desk and was like, yeah, you can come work out. And that's really when it started to actually pique my interest and got me to where I am now of, hey, maybe I should be training. A couple years later, he opened up a private training studio and offered me a job to kind of help run and train people there. So, in a short story, that's kind of how I found it, lost it, and then found it again and built into the passion that it is now of helping others and using my story, hopefully, to inspire others as well through, training and fitness.
So what I think it's interesting you said about the original reason why you started going to the gym, confidence, self-confidence, stuff like that. And it's almost like, and I found this, and I know Dave Tate, who you recently interviewed, he says the same thing. The gym becomes like a sanctuary, and it's like the one place you can go that there isn't any problems in the world. And no matter what's going on, whatever it is, that time in the gym is sacred. And there's something magical about it. And I think that guys like us and trainers and people who are into the fitness industry, who are passionate about the fitness industry, and then people who are addicted to training, a lot of people aren't personal trainers, but they're addicted to training and they go every single day. I think they find that same thing, as the gym is their safe place. It's the place they go to escape it all. And it's interesting how, you had that, you slipped away from it, but then you came right back to it. And, I know after working with Josh, you successfully opened your own boot camp, and you were doing that for a little bit. But then you kind of vanished, and I had no idea where you actually went. You actually joined the military, correct?
Yeah. No, it's kind of funny because I definitely did a vanishing act on that one, which was, a lot of people now that I'm back into everything, they're like, oh, great. And I used to get messages all the time. When are you coming back? We miss you. Because, I in a way I failed. I'm back now. I guess you could say I stumbled. I had my business, I was with Josh, worked at a few other gyms, and decided, I want to do this myself. And started training people at parks, doing the boot camps, moved into a place that had a garage, and I turned that into like a little, tiny tiny, tiny place. You couldn't even do overhead press in it. Like you had to walk outside with the bar to do an overhead press. And started training people in that, and it built up enough to where it was like, okay, hey, you know what? I want to open up my own warehouse gym. There's nothing in LA that's, you know, badass. It's got tires and, you know, heavy metal and kegs and cool shit like that. So, you know, I was like, I want to do it. I found a place, it was 5,000 square foot warehouse, and I got half of it basically because there was another person that used the other half for storage. So you can see on YouTube, there's like the videos when we first moved in, and there's people flipping tires, and there's walls half built, junk in a corner where we were tearing walls down, things like that. And, you know, I remember, you know, Zach had made a comment once saying it was like it should be like the gym from the Saw movies or something like that, because it just looked raw and dirty, but, you know, doesn't appease everybody. But the people that came, they loved it. And a lot of them even would come on the weekends and help me as I was opening it. They would help me clean it up, tear stuff down, build the walls. I had a kid come in, some friends of mine that, you know, did a bunch of graffiti all over it, you know, putting like strength and all this cool stuff on it. I made a lot of mistakes. I was young. Luckily, I kind of learned from now. Dave and I kind of talked about some of the stuff yesterday with that in business. And, you know, luckily I made those mistakes earlier. And when the recession hit, with all the mistakes, I basically lost my business because all of a sudden I was losing clients. I didn't plan. I wasted money where I didn't need to spend money. And I didn't quite know what to do. And I'd always had like this itch, you know, when I was a kid growing up, you know, we played Army and this and that. It was always something I'd thought of doing, partially because it was something of like, hey, I can escape from this life that I have and I can go into the military. And I almost did it at one point when I decided, okay, should I do the military? And I decided to do the training in the business. Well, when that failed, I was like, maybe this is a sign, and closed everything down, moved my stuff to storage, sold my car, bunch of stuff, and signed up for the military. And off I went basically into that.
So, you know, it's interesting because I think like a lot of people would look at that and like it's almost a defining moment, you know, and you stepped up and you joined the military, which is interesting because you had that thought process as a young, you know, man, growing up with everything that was going on. But what's fascinating about that is your personality and the style of training you were attracted to is very much basic, you know, big movements, very simple, tactical stuff. You know, going into the military, obviously, you know, you go through boot camp and then you're out in the middle of nowhere, and I know you were overseas and training. How did that affect you as a trainer? You know, because I know at the time you weren't thinking of, oh, I'm going to be a trainer, but being that you were grown up, being a trainer, being that you, you know, had the business side of it, I'm sure that while you were in the military, all of that stuff was in your head in terms of, you know, like, how should we train out here? What can I do? I'm sure you had a different spin, and you look at weights differently than everyone else. You look at the facilities you guys had. So I'd love to hear kind of that experience, you know, for you, being that you had, you know, tried your own business, you failed, now you're in the military, because most people don't have that. When they go into the military, it's because they don't have any other options, or they've wanted to do that the whole life. There's very few people who, you know, try to have a business or doing another job that then say, hey, I want to go join the military. So to me, that's a fascinating story. And I'd love to kind of see what your experience was during your time when you were serving, and, you know, how that's kind of shaped you now as a trainer.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of funny, you know, when I went in, you know, it's no matter how prepared you are, as far as like when it comes to your basic training and all that stuff, you know, I thought I was in pretty good shape when I was going in. It doesn't matter. They are going to kill you either way, but I was doing a hell of a lot better than everybody else. I was one of the top PT scores in not just my platoon, but in the whole company. So I kind of stood out, and that helped in a way. And I saw all these things that like, why the hell is the Army doing this? They've changed a lot over the years, but being such a large organization that they're still way behind. Like when I was there and leaving all of my training for infantry and getting ready to graduate and then go to airborne school, they started to get kettlebells in. And they were like, yeah, we got these new things. I'm like, what the fuck? Like these, why do we have these this whole time? Why are they coming when I'm leaving? And they, had people, they ordered a ton of them and they were like, yeah, we're going to start using them in these, they're these new things. I'm like, they're not new. Like they've been around for a long time, but for the military, especially in the big organizations, it takes a long time for stuff to kind of dribble down because it's so huge. So they're kind of catching on with that, but being in there, I noticed a lot of things where I was like, okay, here's where I could have prepared better. Here's where I could help other people better. Here's what's wrong, but you have to do it anyways. They make you run a hell of a lot for really no reason for the most part, but you got to run and you got to run, and they just want to kill you basically. The whole break you down and build you up. Well, it's just basically made to just break you down. They don't care about building you up. But I saw a lot of stuff in there where it related to thinking of it differently than pretty much everybody else out there of like, hey, here's what we can do. This and this can be better. And then as time kind of progressed, it was weird. Like I loved training as I went to airborne school, things like that. It made it really hard to get in and train how I wanted because you're just nonstop, go, go, go. And at one point I did not want to train. I hated working out. I hated it because it was all the stuff I didn't want to do. They just wanted to kill you all the time, and it made it not fun for me. So that also kind of taught me something there of, overworking. How you tell people, I tell people that you don't have to totally kill yourself every time. Your body's going to tap out and you're not going to enjoy it anymore. There's a balance that you have to find within there. So learning that, and then it also at one point as time went on, after I left and then I went to Fort Bragg with the 82nd Airborne, I started to actually have time to get into the gym and train some more. And I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do mixed with the company or platoon or whatever PT that we have. And then I would go work out during lunch with one of the platoon leaders, the squad leaders, because he wanted to work out. They found out I kind of knew some stuff. So we would go train. And so it's kind of like starting to be a mix. And I almost had to light that passion again when I started to get in. And that's where I was like, man, I really want to get into training again eventually. And I want to do something with military, obviously, to help military people out. And so through a few years of that, I got out a little early for some personal family issue things. At the time, it seemed like a good idea. And I was like, hey, you know what? I can start up training again. Well, I'm not going to say I regret it, but that's the best way to kind of say it. Like, I'm happy where I'm at and I wouldn't change anything. But after the fact, it was like, man, I should have stayed in and stayed where I was and on the path I was going. Now seeing all of my friends where they've done all the badass shit they're doing these days. I'm like, man, I was literally right there with them and I left. So kind of not relating to the training, I learned a lesson in all of that it's hard to explain. Like, I don't regret it, but in a way it was like quitting to me, and there's nothing I can do to ever change it. I tried to go back in. They wouldn't let me. And so taking that negative I literally think about it almost every day. Like, it reminds me, and I've turned it into a positive to push myself to not have to ever live with an experience like that and inspire others.
It's your motivation now.
Yeah. It's turned into my motivation. And, with that being said, that's when I kind of, okay, well, next best thing, I got into contracting. And when I started doing contracting and going overseas doing that, I knew it wasn't going to be forever. It was like, hey, you know what? Let me fill this void, this gap that I have, because I can't go back into the Army and go back in and do special operations now. So let me go and do this instead. But at the end of that, my exit plan was to basically be where I'm at now and take everything I've learned and turn it into a training business again. And it kind of it sparked that fire again and motivated me. And I've learned a lot, met a lot of great people all over, friends that, some of them I haven't seen in a couple of years, but they're guys that I totally would trust my life with. It's kind of a crazy bond you learn with all these people inside the military and then within contracting. But with all of that, I learned a lot of lessons with life and training wise. And now, as I've been telling you before the call, I'm getting a lot of people coming to me now to help them, whether it's just regular Army guys wanting to get better at their APFT, or Marines, or guys that are in special operations or ex-spec ops, and now they're civilians, but they want to still stay at that high level of fitness, but they kind of have more room to do their training now. And then I have some guys currently that I'm running some programs with that are getting ready to go through special forces selection. So it's kind of turned into, circling all the way back around to business and training now. And it's awesome. It's been an experience. I don't regret everything. I just use some of the things that I guess you could say were mistakes that I wish I could somewhat change. I just use them as motivation now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important to look at it like that versus, a lot of people, what's interesting is that failures or, life lessons, so to speak, can be taken one of two ways. You can either continue to look at them as a negative, or you can look at them like you and as a learning experience and as a positive. And how do I grow from that? How do I do that? And it's interesting, sometimes the universe or God or whatever, people believe in, sometimes it has an alternative plan for you. And so at some point, like you felt when you left the military, you suddenly had this, well, maybe I didn't make the right decision, but you had a bigger purpose and a bigger reason to be here. And here we are now, a few years later, and you're actually training, guys still in the military who want to perform at the highest level. You're training guys that were performing at the highest level who want to continue at that. In a way, it's like you were put on your path without you being able to select it, And I kind of look at that like, no matter how much control we want to have over everything, at the end of the day, we just don't have any control. And we're going to end up where we're supposed to be, regardless of what we do. And so you can look at it like you and put a positive on it and see it as, an experience to motivate and to push harder, push forward. Or you could do what a lot of people do, and that's dwell on the situation for the rest of their lives and not ever get out of that funk, so to speak. So, let's finish off here by kind of talking about what you're doing now, moving forward, and kind of what it is that you hope to kind of help people with in a grander scheme. Because, we've been talking a lot, and, I always say that you can't replace passion in trainers. So many people, I got a business podcast with Simon Lovell, the Fitpreneurs. And, obviously I run a marketing company with Andy Jenkins and Mike Filsaime. And so many people want to learn the marketing. They want to learn the business side, and they want to do that. And they're not a good trainer. And they're just interested in the money. They're not interested in the transformation. They're not interested in the results. And we constantly are always preaching it's about the results. It's about the transformation. Without that, none of this stuff really works. Talking to you and seeing your passion, like you have oodles of this. It just spews out of you in terms of the passion, the getting the results, wanting to see the transformation. So why don't you just share what you're doing moving forward? And I think that would be a good place to wrap it up.
Perfect. Yeah, that works. And the passion and stuff definitely has been built from all of that, from, all the ups and downs that I've had, from the military and being a drug addict. And it's kind of turned into who I am. And I'm not going to say I've been perfect. Like I've had times with some other addicts that have slipped up, but it's taught me a lesson on top of that. And further actually ingraining it into me to wanting to make myself better and help make other people better. So as far as everything that I'm doing, it's funny because, people say, as far as the business side goes, pick your market, your one thing and your niche. And, it's like, I almost think like there's a few areas that just kind of have happened now with everything. Like I have the whole bikinibodybeauty.com that's just geared towards women. And I didn't even purposely do this. It was like this when I had my boot camps and everything. All the girls I get, well, I'd say 90 to 95% of them, their ages are, from about 25 to almost, 40. There's some under and over that, but the majority of them are in there, and they're all moms. I never specifically targeted them or anything like that. It just kind of happened. And then that's when, before I had the Fit Mommy Boot Camp and now the Bikini Body Beauties. So that's kind of one market that I have there, with training them, doing intensive one-on-one coaching. We have the membership site that's about to launch, and then nutrition programs, tons of different stuff based off of the person, who they are, where they're at, and their availability. And then there's the other side with the bodysynergytraining.com, that it's training just any guys that want to train like a warrior. They want to lift cool shit, tires. They want to lift heavy. They want to train hard. They don't want to just go in and do a bunch of isolation bodybuilding stuff. Like, they want to do that. They want to look good naked, but they want to do the cool shit that they see people doing with kegs and sledgehammers and just making them feel the alpha male badass. And then within that, it's building within this military type stuff as well. Guys that want to get ready for it, guys that are ex-military, or guys that are active duty, that want that training too. They want something different than just CrossFit or just going in and doing bodybuilding stuff. They're like, they feel that there's something better. And so that's kind of, it's evolved into that. And now I'm pushing into more of it, because I can see, I knew there was a need, but I kind of was waiting and feeling the waters out. And now everybody's coming to me and asking me, getting me, like all last week, I was getting guys coming to, hey, can you help with this? This is what we want to do. I want to do this. And here's where I'm at. I'm like, great. This is what it's been building up to, I guess now.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. And within that, it's kind of, I have a lot of plans, a lot of things I want to do, that I'm working with other trainers, guys that are in the military or are veterans, with really giving back and helping out that community as one through the business. So I told you, we really want to, there's a huge disconnect these days with civilian population in the military. The government does their best to help integrate soldiers back in, but they don't do a great job at it. Hey, I give them an A for effort, but there's only so much the government and the military can do, and a lot of it, I think, falls on our shoulders to help soldiers coming back. And from some of the stuff that they've seen has been insane, and going on multiple deployments, the longest war we've ever had. Not getting into any political stuff here, but giving back to these people that have done so much for the country, whether you believe in the war or not. They signed up for a purpose. They need to be supported. And a lot of them are coming back with, they've been ingrained in that so much. It's literally two different worlds. Coming back from that and into civilian life, it's really hard for them. And a lot of them have PTSD, which has a negative sound to it with everything, but a lot of people don't understand it. They think they're going to be crazy because they see the news and it's, PTSD guy shot somebody. It's not exactly like that. People need to be educated on more. And then those guys, they need somewhere to go. Don't just send them to a doctor and drug them up. And so that's kind of where, with some of these guys I'm working with, we want to create to where it's like, hey, you're not alone. Here's a support community of like-minded people that were in there, or that almost like an AA, I guess, in a way, like a sponsor. Like, there's a community for you to go to. You have a support system, and using fitness and strength training as a natural way to help them and integrate back into society. And there's a lot of stuff that we want to go within that of, having sponsorship gyms or affiliates around that, it's not just in Los Angeles, they're all over. So people have an option to go. And I'm just trying to use the business now with that. And it never was like originally a goal, but it kind of maybe subconsciously was, and it's now turning into that with all these, from the military, the contracting connections, all these people I've met that we're trying to turn into something like this. So that's kind of something in the future and that we're trying to do now, and really give back and help out a lot of these guys within the military, and helping the guys that are in, obviously, with their training. But as a big picture, that's kind of what we're doing right now. There's the women's side, and then there's the training and veteran stuff we're trying to work on now.
That's awesome, man. It's funny what comes. Sometimes it comes out of something you didn't even expect, and it's interesting. A lot of trainers always looking for a niche or an area to go into, and in a sense, you are open, and your niche has kind of picked you. And what's fascinating about that is you have that passion. You clearly you care a lot, that you're doing some amazing things with what you've got going on. And I'm excited to see that grow over the next few years. And I see the momentum building. I see the passion. I see your dedication, and it's a rarity in the industry. So I'm excited to see what it all comes out, and we're going to continue to work together. But thanks for taking the time today, sharing your story. And hopefully a lot of people got inspired by it, and they'll be reaching out to get more help from you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity and kind of pushing me to do it, because I haven't shared too much of my story, I guess. So it's good for me because I've seen now that it's inspiring people. So if anybody is watching this, like, you're not alone. Whether you need help with your training or you need someone that you can talk to that's there for you and inspire you, shoot me a message on, Facebook, shoot me an email, whatever it is. I'm not going to ignore it. I answer everything that I get. Might take me some time, depending on what I'm doing, but shoot me a message. I can help you out, or I have plenty of other people out there as well that are willing to support you within communities of groups, or someone that you can just call and talk to. So, I feel it's awesome that people are coming to me for all of this, because, like I said, it's not something I planned. Maybe it was something I felt I wanted to do, and it just kind of happened, and it's pushed me in this direction. So I appreciate everybody that has given the support, and including you, and, I'm looking forward to everything.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for taking the time, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, AJ.